Hello and welcome to Quarrelsome Rhinoceros Stitches episode number 33. My name is Monica, I'm the host. I'm coming at you from Maine, where I live with my dog. And you can find me on social media as Quarrelsome Rhino almost everywhere. On Ravelry, I'm morux, M-O-R-U-X. I will put the things up here. There are links down in the description box. Today is the 3rd of October, I believe. Hopefully I'll be able to put this episode up not too long after I film it. Last episode was up about a week after I had actually filmed it, so hopefully I'll be able to get this one up sooner. This podcast is mostly about knitting. Today all I'm going to be sharing is knitting. But sometimes I do other crafts, sometimes I sew, cross stitch, etc. This is where I sort of share my progress on things I've been working on, and I kind of use this as a way to hold myself accountable for my works in progress. So, this episode I have quite a lot to talk about, so I'm going to get right into it. I do have to go get lunch at some point, so hopefully I can finish this up before that happens. So I have already recorded this episode once, and I realized that I would have to re-record because I skipped an entire segment that I wanted to do closer to the end. So, I'm re-recording, and hopefully I don't miss anything big out this time. So, I guess I will get right into it after my dog gets out of my lap. He's a very large dog. He's not actually all the way in my lap, just his head is. Alright, so I will get right into it. So you can see that I am wearing something new if you've been here before. If not, welcome. So this is a newly finished object that you didn't even see as a work in progress. So this is a modified version of the Moving to the Country shawl, which I should have looked up her actual name. It is Christy from the Girls in the Yarn Cafe podcast. Let me see if I can find her actual name so I can be a proper podcaster. Christy Houghton, I believe is how you would pronounce that. At least you would if you were from Maine. Anyway, so by Christy of the Girls in the Yarn Cafe. And yeah, so it's a two-color, sort of very repetitive shawl that is got eyelets and garter. I did mix it up just a little bit, and I'll tell you about the modifications as I show you the shawl. So it is pretty big because I stretched it a lot at the points when I blocked it. I had to sort of rig up and basically make my shawl into a hammock in order to make room for it to block. So while I'm wearing it, I do have like a little knot in one side because this is quite long. I also apparently have an end to snip. I just saw an end. Uh-oh. I found an end. Oh, I have a pair of scissors right here. This never happens. I am never near a pair of scissors when I need them. Alright. Why is there a piece of tape on my scissors? This was supposed to be a quick snip off and then I'll be done. And then there was tape on my scissors. There we go. All right. Anyway, so this pink yarn is Jaeger spun. It is in their silk. I believe it's mulberry silk. I don't know. It's in their silk base. It is in the color peony. So it is, I believe it is an 80. It would just help if I get the tags. Why don't I do that? All right, let's get the tags, shall we? All right, so it is Jaeger spun, which I bought at Heavenly Yarns in Belfast. It is the Kokajo base, which is a 90% superwash wool and 10% mulberry silk. The colorway is Peony. Yeah, so that is the pink. And then the white, the sort of natural with speckles there. If you can see the speckles, there are both blue and pink speckles. The pink yarn really brings out all the pink speckles, but the blue ones are still there. They're just a little subtle. That is Fuse Fiber Studio. It is in the Between the Lines colorway. It is a superwash merino, cashmere, and nylon. 80-10-10. And this was an exclusive colorway for a that went along with a book with the same name, Between the Lines. My grandmother got it for me, and then I bought the pink skein to go with it. And I've been waiting to make this into a shawl for like almost 2 years now. And I finally got fed up with waiting. And I was only waiting because I was going to make it into my own design, and I have, not that I'm done designing, but I have sort of paused in designing because I have come up with too many ideas and I have not finished the one that I'm working on. So I will finish up the one I'm working on, hopefully, at some point, someday. And then I will be able to design more. I just have too many ideas at once, and it's really hard for me to get all of them out into yarn. So there we go. So there, that is my moving to the country shawl. I did not go through any of the changes that I made. Okay, so it is a free pattern, so I am going to just tell you what you do. So you cast on, and then you make increases on both the right and wrong side, and you are making eyelets every so often on the rows. So I believe it's like every 10 rows or something like that, you do an eyelet row. So by the time I got to the color change, the first color change, I got bored with just doing the same thing over and over again. So, which is why I modify patterns, basically. That's one of the major reasons why I will modify patterns. And I know that this pattern is meant to be repetitive, that's the whole point of it, but I just basically decided to do whatever I wanted. So I did extra eyelet rows in the middle bit here, and I believe I did the same thing that I did in my wingspan, where I did a row of eyelets, I worked back, and then I did a knit row, and then worked back, and then did another row of eyelets. So that is that, and then after that I did a little tiny bit of stockinette, like just one little stripe of stockinette in there, and then I just sort of went as long as I wanted to in between the eyelet rows. The eyelet rows did take quite a long time to do, and I kind of just forgot how many rows I had done in between by that point. And then I switched when I ran out, or when I got very low. I'm talking this much yarn left on the white, I went back to the pink. And then I only had this much left when I bound off. I maybe could have gotten one more row out of this, but I'm glad that I stopped where I did, because I didn't have to fight with yarn chicken, and I didn't have to lose it, because I have a feeling that I probably would have lost it anyway. Anyway, but yeah, so I have been wearing it sort of off the one shoulder. It is a little bit long to wear it over my back because I am short. The next time I block it, I will probably try and stretch out the lace instead of pulling it at the corners, but we'll see the next time I have to block it. So that is my very first finished object for this segment. I believe that I started and finished this, it was exactly 2 weeks that I was knitting it. And I knit pretty much exclusively on this because I was basically just really stressed out, and this was just a way to be less stressed, I guess. So yeah. Apparently I knit very quickly when I am stressed out. Not that I'm wanting to be stressed. Oh man. The next finished object I'm going to show you, I did not actually show you, I have not shown you since I finished the first sock. So last time I showed you, this is a pair of socks that I've been working on. This is it's Aracunia yarns in the Huasco sock, I believe. I don't know if that's how you pronounce those things, but that is the brand and base. So this color is, I think, called Guacameo. And I picked it up at the Heavenly Yarns in Belfast, and it's been quite a while in my stash, so I'm very happy with that. I started these in July, and I got pretty far, I'd say, onto the foot. And then I stopped knitting it, and I didn't really feel like knitting socks anymore. So this sock pattern, it's basically just a vanilla sock. I cast on 64 stitches. I knit, I think like 12 or 13 rows of 2x2 rib, and then I knit 80 rows of leg. This is a New Depths heel by Becky Sorensen. It is like $1.50 or €1.50 on Ravelry, and it is really, really good. If you have a high arch, get this sock, a heel. Anyway, so it's a paid for pattern, so I'm not going to give away too much about it. It's just a little more intuitive than, I would say, than a German short row heel. And there is like a gusset feature in it. Those are the things I'm going to say about it. I really like it. I really like how the finished heel looks. It's just really neat. It's a really good pattern, well written, and there are video tutorials if you don't understand some of the written directions. So I think it is definitely well worth the €1.50 that is in there, or that it costs. And then for my foot, I know that I generally have to knit about 60-ish rounds for the toe or for the foot. So I think this is like 63 or 64 rounds for the foot, and then the toe decrease. And so I was probably about here the last time you saw it. So I finished the toe, did the toe decreases. I generally decrease down to like 12 stitches or so. And then I put this on my foot, and it is the best fitting sock I've ever worn, that I've ever knit myself. So I don't know if it was the combination of being patient enough to knit as many rounds as I need for the foot, because I know that is a problem I have. Or if my gauge is just better now than it was on previous socks, or if the heel is just the only reason why the sock is great. I don't care, all three of those things are fine as long as the sock fits me, right? I do really enjoy, there is like an absence of color like striping right there, and it kind of looks like a circle. Anyway, I don't know, that just struck me as very odd. Anyway, I really like this sock, so much so that I knit the second one. So I am done with these socks. I'm so surprised that I actually managed to finish a pair of socks for myself this year, because most of the knits that I've made this year have either been gift knits, or they are They're just not for me, or they're socks for other people, or they're just not socks. So I have a pair of socks, everybody. A pair of socks! I'm so excited. I haven't blocked them. I don't think I will, because I don't have any, like, blocking. My blue plastic blocking sock blockers from Knit Picks are broken, so because they're plastic. So I think I'll have to invest in either some wooden ones or some metal ones, but that will be sometime down the line when I have more disposable income for knitting apparatus. So anyway, but yeah, so I have a finished pair of socks. I'm so excited. This is the first pair for my box of socks, you know, in October. I obviously am not doing the box of socks this year, so, but I'm very happy to have a new pair of socks for myself. I cannot wait to wear these. I am super duper extra excited about them. So, that is my second finished object for this work period. I feel very accomplished this time around, because of how much I have accomplished. So, I feel very accomplished because of how much I accomplished. I feel very accomplished because of how much I have finished in this time period. So last night, I knew I was going to record today, and last night I spent some time on my computer watching one of my very good friends play some games. And so I decided to finish up a project. Sorry, sirens. Anyway, I started a project the other day and I posted about it on Instagram. It was not a very good quality photo, so I'm gonna obviously get some better ones. But I've figured out what I was doing wrong with color work. And it was kind of a revelation for me. So I spent a good portion of time. I really wanted to try the Latvian braid that I've seen it's on the Hoopla hat, which is really popular right now, but I didn't want to knit the Hoopla hat. So I did sort of a test version of what would be a Hoopla hat. So I did the ribbing, and then I did the Latvian braid so I could practice that, and then I did a bunch of color work. Now at the beginning my color work was kind of puckering and like it just looked weird. It just didn't look good. So I ended up pulling all of it out. By the time I got to the end though, I had kind of figured out what I was doing wrong. And my floats were just too tight, which I didn't know kind of how to fix until I actually like tried it a little bit more. So, I felt more confident after I pulled it out that I could make something fitted that I could actually wear. But I didn't feel like I wanted to knit a hat. So I have had the Selbu mitten pattern by Ellie of Skein in my Ravelry library for a really long time, and I have finally knit them. So I finished up the second Selbu mitten last night, so I have 2 Selbu mittens. I just have to do the thumbs. But yeah, so I'm really excited for these for winter because they are going to be super cozy and super warm. This yarn is Swan's Island in the All-American Sport line, and it is in the colors Evergreen and Camel or Sand. I think it's Sand is what they call the color. Yeah, so Evergreen and Sand. But yeah, so I just have the 2 thumbs left, and these are a pair of mittens for myself for the winter. They are very warm already, so I'm hoping that they will do pretty well in the winter here in Maine. So yeah, there is the pattern. I do think that my arm down here is a little bit wider around than is necessary for the color work to look nice, but that's fine. But yeah, I am very excited that I finished these. I'm very happy with the pattern. I think it is an absolutely perfect beginner's knitting project. I think that that it helps you learn how to tension your yarn for the colorwork sections. But yeah, so I really enjoyed this pattern. Really enjoyed the pattern. And it is very quick. I'm not gonna give away too much, but there aren't very many rows from start to finish. It is a sport or a DK weight pattern. I use sport weight yarn. It's a little bit thinner, but I think that it works up just the same. I cannot wait to block these because I think these stitches are going to just puff up and be just absolutely gorgeous once they're finished, once they're blocked. But yeah, so I'm very excited for these, super happy that I decided to knit them, and I cannot wait to knit my next pair. That being said, I have so much extra yarn, so I bought just one ball of each of this, each of these colors, and now I have probably about 25 grams left. So they were 50-gram skeins. I only used a really small amount to make these. Like, I don't know if I can get another whole pair out of this, but I might even be able to make a hat out of it if I do like an open work hat. I don't know. Anyway, we'll see. I will use up these scraps. I don't know in what yet though. So I will set those aside and hopefully something will strike me. But yeah, so I will finish those two thumbs. I think I'm gonna knit a couple more pairs of Selbu mittens for presents for people for Christmas maybe, because they're pretty and I like them, and I have quite a bit of, I don't think I actually have a lot of DK weight yarn. I don't know. I'll have to go through my stash and see what I can find because these are brilliant. So I will put those there. I have finished them. I just have to do the thumbs. So not really finished, but finished-ish. The last thing I have been working on a little bit, this is not something I've been working on to the extent that I've been working on the rest of it because it is a little bit more time intensive, but it is a sweater. I am making it out of Cascade 220. This is a discontinued colorway, I believe, or like a seasonal colorway called Christmas Colors. It's color number 8894. Yeah, so I really enjoy this color. This is like my shade of green. I really like it with my hair. I'm keeping the project I'm working on in this, it's 3 bags full studio. I believe they sell out of the Heavenly Yarn Shop in Belfast, which is just where I get everything from this episode. Even the yarn for this I bought at that store. So I'm at least working through the stash of things that I buy from that store. I think that's a very good sign. Anyway, I am on using my second ball. I'm almost done. And I am knitting an I Heart Cardigans by Tanis Lavallee, I believe is her name. She is the dyer behind the owner of Tanis Fiber Arts. So it is a cardigan version of her I Heart Erin pullover sweater pattern. So here is where I am. The last time I shared with you, I was not done with the decreases for the waist shaping, but I have finished that now. So I thought I would share it again because I made some progress on it at least. So here is the cable. This is the right front of the sweater. So it's got a lovely cable detail on either side running down the front, and then it has got a cable detail running up the back that is kind of a... These two sides are exactly the same as the opposite. So this is the right front, this is the left front, but it's like, yeah, whatever. Anyway. I can't really explain things today. I don't know why I decided to podcast today. I'm blaming it on the toothache that I have. Anyway, so here is, that's the side of it. I have finished the decreasing for the waist, and I'm just about to do some increasing. And then there is that, and then there is the left front. Yeah, so I'm really excited to make some more progress on this. I think this is what I'm going to be focusing on next. So hopefully I'll be able to finish up the bulk of the sweater here pretty soon. Now I am modifying this pattern heavily because I am knitting a bigger size than the largest size that she has listed up until the sleeve separation, and then from the sleeve separation to the top, I will probably follow the pattern fairly closely. Obviously my stitch count is going to be a little different. And then I will follow the exact directions for the sleeves because my arms are very short, so I think the measurement for the sleeve is going to work perfectly for me. So I added an entire 4 inches to the top of the pattern, or to the biggest size of the pattern, because I know I'm going to be wearing this sweater in the winter. It is a worsted weight sweater. I'm probably only going to be wearing it in the winter. I do want to wear it closed with the buttons buttoned, and I want to wear things underneath it. So I know I'm going to need extra ease. I believe the largest size in the pattern is a 48 inch, if I remember correctly. My bust size is 49 inches. So, so I went up to a 52, so that I would have that 3 extra inches of positive ease if that's how it works out. I'm really hoping that's how it works out, because it will still fit underneath my jacket for the winter, but it will be big enough that I can put things underneath it. So that is very important. If you live in Maine, you have to layer all winter. You go outside, it's freezing cold, you come inside, everybody has the heat blasting, so you have to take off a bunch of layers. So I'm hoping that I will have, the math will work out. This is the first time I've modified a sweater pattern to this degree. So if I am successful, I will be very, very excited. But yeah, so this is my sweater. I have 30 rows left of increases for the waist shaping, and then I have like, I think 40 rows after that. So I've got quite a bit of knitting, maybe 30 rows. This section is supposed to be like 18 inches long or something before I can move on to the next section. And I think I'm like maybe 10 inches right now. I haven't measured. I don't need to measure until I'm getting closer, because I know I'm not anywhere near 18 inches right now. So this is still small enough to fit in this little bag here. So hopefully I will find another larger bag, or I'll be able to wash one of my larger bags before that is no longer the case. I am planning a sort of wash of all of my project bags. I have to clean all of them out first though. So that's my next step after I'm done with the works in progress that I have right now. I will be pulling everything out of my work in progress basket, which I actually shared in, I posted a video of my stash. So I went through my stash, looked at my stash, tried to sort of hold myself accountable for, I'm participating in Stash Mescal, which is a knit along that the Corner of Craft is doing, Hannah of the Corner of Craft. And as soon as she said it, I was like, yes, I'm on board with this. So I am doing knitting as much as I can from Stash in the next couple of months. I believe it ends on December 31st. So over the next couple of months, I'll be knitting as much as I can from Stash and getting that down a little bit so that I can sort of plan out what I want to buy next, because my yarn budget is very small right now. So I will plan out the things that I want to buy. That being said, I think my next big project is in this basket here. This is the yarn that I bought for my Zweig sweater. So I'm hopefully gonna get that started here pretty quickly. So, and that is, most of that is, actually I think almost all of it is Knit Picks. There is a little bit of leftovers of Dragon Horde yarn. But yeah, so there is that. The next thing, I will actually share the two things that I got when I was with my grandmother the other day, before I go into my last segment, which is the one that I forgot in the last recording. So this is, I bought this, we got these at Heavenly Yarns in Belfast, again. So I bought Ya wool, it is, or Ja wool, I don't know if it is Ja or Ya, I don't know. Anyway, this is, they have color numbers, I think. 902.10152. I don't know. It's this lovely green, blue, brown mixture. And then, my grandmother bought some Swan's Island dip dyed collection. Whoop. Dip dyed collection. Actually, probably easier to see on that side on camera, where it is mostly this like tealy blue, and it's got a little flash of white natural dyed yarn there. I'm going to be knitting a pair of socks with these for my grandmother, and I think it is a DK weight. Pretty sure it's a DK weight. It's either DK or worsted. I've already knit her a pair of DK weight socks. I have all of the numbers that I used for her feet in a notebook somewhere, so I will have to try and find that. But yeah, so that will be my next gift knit project. So my grandmother is kind of allergic to wool, but if it's on her feet, it's fine. I don't know how that works, but she doesn't like to wear wool up around her face, so, because she gets stuffed up from it. So, but she wears it on her feet fine, so she can have wool socks. So that's great. Most of the yarn that we find in yarn stores, especially in Maine, is wool. And she gets very frustrated by how not colorful the wool is and how not colorful the cotton yarn is, and she thinks it's boring. And then we saw some silk yarn at the Cashmere Goat the other day, which is in Camden. And she was like, oh, this. And I was like, silk is real expensive. So hopefully she will find something she likes that I can knit her like a shawl with. So there is that. That is for socks. And those are all of the things that I wanted to talk about that were in progress. And I guess these can be considered in progress as well, but they're closer to being finished. They are Frankenstein objects, I think is what I will call them. So they're still FOs, they're just Frankenstein. So this is my Weekender sweater. I love my Weekender sweater. When I first knit it, I was not on gauge, and it was very, very big. And I thought that was going to be okay for me. So when I shared it on the podcast, I was like, it's large, but I'm very happy with it. And I was, except that I can't fit it under any of my coats. And it is not warm enough to wear by itself in the winter when I will be wearing it. So I decided on, I think it was the Grocery Girl's last podcast, Tracy had finished up her version of the Weekender, and Jody suggested for her to steek it up the sides because she wasn't happy with how big it was either. So she suggested to steek it up the side and then sew it together. And so that sparked a brainwave, and I was like, oh, I can just do that. So I did. Now, the inside seam is quite ugly. So I may pull out the inside seam and re-steek a lot, like closer in. So I took in 16 stitches, I believe. Yeah, 8 on either side of the split. So 16 stitches is quite a lot when you're working in such a big gauge. So I did that I did that on both sides, and it fits me much, much better now. I'm hoping that I can make the seams on the outside look better by blocking it, and if it doesn't look better with blocking, then I will probably undo that bind off, or that seam down the inside, and re-steek closer to the seam. So we will see. I have to block it still, so once I block it, I will give another update on it. So this is my first Franken-Object. I am not re-knitting this sweater. I'm not using this yarn ever again. Ever again. I knit, this is the yarn that I used for my Black Forest cardigan, which was a test knit for the Making Stories Woods book. This is Dererum Natura in the Serrano colorway. It is a gorgeous yarn. I am forever knitting it. I feel like I have knit this yarn 50 times. So I finished that sweater and it did not look good on me. I did not like it. It is my personal preference that I do not like shawl collar sweaters. I have figured this out from that test knit. So I finished, like I was never gonna wear the sweater. So I made the decision to unwind the whole thing and re-knit it into something that I was going to use. So this is where the Weekender came in, is because the Weekender is gorgeous and I will absolutely wear this in the winter. That being said, the yarn, I have used the yarn now for 2 very large sweaters, and I'm tired of knitting with this yarn because I've seen so much of it. So I still think that I have like 3 skeins left that I don't know what I'm going to do with. Also, I've posted a free hat pattern on my blog called The Skein of Thought. You can find that through my Ravelry. I have it linked there. This is the yarn that I used for one of the colors in that hat. So I have used some of the yarn, but I still have 3 skeins left over. So there's that. It's a very large sweater. I am fixing it. Now, the part that I forgot in the last episode is that I have a second Franken-Object that I want to share with you. This is my inside out Koru cardigan. So this is the Koru cardigan. It is a pattern by Frenchie of Aroha Knits. It is one of my very favorite sweaters. That being said, I have some problems with it. I messed up at some point and in the stitch count, and ended up having to like sort of do a mini steaky rolly thing here, and like sew over it a whole bunch of times. That is fine. That does not bother me. That is something I fixed pre-finishing. What I am upset with is how tight my bind off is on my neck. What would be the buttonhole row. The bind off is very, very tight. You can sort of see, I think it's on this side. You can sort of see how tight it is because of how it's pulling up this way, you see? So, what I'm going to try and do is pull out this bind off and redo it. I'm okay with how it looks on the bottom. I don't think I did the bind off badly there. It is just the sides, so I don't have to pull the whole side out. I just have to pull a couple of rows, and I may even add a couple of rows because I have some extra of this yarn. I have like a whole skein and a half extra of this yarn. The other thing I'm going to do, I think, is make the sleeves a little bit longer. So in the pattern, they are like, I think they're like either half sleeves or 3/4 sleeves. And also my bind off is very tight on this as well. You can sort of see when I stretch it out, it doesn't actually stretch with it. It is very rigid cast off. I need to fix that because it is too tight around this part of my arm. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to basically pick up before the garter ribbing, or the garter edge, in the knit section, because it'll be easier to pick up the stitches there. And then I think I'm just going to knit a 2x2 rib. I like the garter detail around the button band and around the bottom, but I think I'm going to do a 2x2 rib because I think it will look better on my arm, and be a little bit easier to make it a little longer without having to do any more decreases, because I like the amount of stitches there are around in this part of the sweater. So we'll see if that actually happens. I really do want to change this sweater and how it fits, because, or how the bind offs are, because that is really obnoxious. It's very frustrating because it feels like it's forever pulling back, so it's like falling off my shoulders all the time. So hopefully, and I think part of, like, at least at most of it is is definitely the bind off. So I'm just going to pull out the bind off and see if I can't find a different, more stretchy bind off to use, and maybe possibly making it a little bit wider as well, because I don't think it is really wide enough. So that is my next Franken-Object. I'm really hoping that the modifications that I will make to this sweater will make me wear it a little bit more often. That being said, I'm probably going to throw this on today because it is a little bit chilly outside. So it obviously will not be today because I will be wearing it. And I also actually kind of really like pink and yellow together. So anyway, and this is the only amount of color that I'm wearing today. So that is everything that I wanted to share. I will probably not be back in another episode for a couple of weeks. I am getting ready right now for my really good friend Kim's wedding. I have knit her a pair of socks, and I shared them on the podcast before, probably closer to Christmas last year. I can't remember what episode number that was. But yeah, so it is her wedding on Saturday, and I am her maid of honor. So I will be doing that this weekend, and then I have some other podcasting that I'm doing with the Geek.io show, which I've talked about on my knitting podcast before. But yeah, so I've got some stuff coming up in the future, so I will be probably 2 or 3 weeks before I get to podcast again, but that gives me plenty of time to make some progress on that sweater. I'm hoping to have my goal for next time I podcast is to be done at least with one of the front, like I want to be done with the separation for the sleeves, and I want to be done with one of the parts, either the back front, the left, or the right front. Or back front. Oh goodness. The back front. That's the one I want to be done with. Anyway, I hope you have a wonderful afternoon, and I will see you in my next episode. Bye!